So they're standing there awkward, and the homeowner is looking at them like, okay, cool. And then you just start rambling and saying things. Well, just so you know, we're actually all fully insured and bonded. And actually, our employees have all been with us for several years. And we actually just invested in this new piece of technology called a water-fed pole or a hot water pressure unit or whatever fancy thing is that your customer doesn't care about that you care about. And you just keep talking and rambling. It causes confusion. And then it greatly diminishes your chance of scheduling that job right there on the spot.
Welcome to the Quick Talk Podcast with Joshua Latimer, where we discuss business, life, family, faith, struggle, fire, pain, and ultimately winning.
It's time to take massive action. Look, I can't work harder on your life or business than you do. It's ultimately all on you.
You know, God created all the food the birds would ever need, but he doesn't put it in their nest. You've got to go get it.
10 out of 10 people die. So how about doing something today that actually matters while you still can? Hey everybody, welcome to the Quick Talk Podcast. Josh here. Hope you are crushing this week. I guess the week's over now, right? But I hope you crushed last week and are ready to crush next week because you need to do that. It's awesome. Today I want to talk about a concept called info dumping, or another term that I've been using more recently is Techno-Babble. And it's funny because this is another one of those things that is a really big part of where my head's at when I'm looking at selling software. But it's completely applicable to you. And I remember when I had my service company in the early days, before it was successful, before I really understood how to articulate my value proposition, how to communicate what services we offer, and how to separate ourselves and differentiate ourselves, before I really understood how to simplify those things, which is the ironic part is whenever you try to simplify anything, it's actually really complex and hard to get something simple, right? That's why Leonardo da Vinci says that simplicity is the ultimate sophistication, and that guy's a genius because that's true. It's actually really hard to make things simple. It takes a lot of thought and effort, but once it's done, it's so much better. And when it comes to selling, we're going into the spring. A lot of you guys are going to ramp up and get really busy. Some of you have larger companies with a sales force, and this is something that I think you should think about. And it has to do with the idea. It's not an idea, it's a fact that confused people don't buy stuff. They just don't, right? And as technicians who are passionate about our thing, whether it's me with software, and I want to talk about the geofencing technology and how we get rooftop geocoordinates and we can do all this stuff and all the software pieces of our product, what happens is we dump Techno-Babble on people and they don't buy. So even if you have a lawn mowing company, if your pitch is set up the wrong way, where it's really heavy on the technical side of stuff, it doesn't help you at all. In fact, it hurts you. And I remember when I got my first water-fed pole system, all I wanted to do was talk to my customers about the reverse osmosis and the deionization tank and how, this $7,000 carbon fiber pole did this and that and this other thing. And they just don't care. And not only do they not care about the details of that, it causes confusion and makes them hesitate. People don't spend money when they're confused. They need clarity and they need simplicity. So you have to find a way to describe what you're selling in a more simple way, right? Does that make sense? So I want to tell you a story. So last year, no, it wasn't last year. It was actually a year plus ago. It was in the fall of 2016. I did this webinar called The Gratitude Effect. Most of you guys have probably seen it or heard it or watched it on YouTube. It's just kind of out there. I played it on the podcast even. And that was I worked harder on that webinar than probably any webinar I have ever done. And the purpose of that webinar when I made it was to teach people and to get them to buy Send Jim. And so I spent weeks and weeks perfecting and crafting and getting everything lined up and getting my storytelling and the narrative down. And then I produced it and did it and launched it, right? And we had all these people come on this webinar and I just crushed it. It was a really good piece of content. It was super insightful and helpful. And I got more messages than I had ever gotten on any webinar, people thanking me, saying, oh my gosh, this is amazing. I've never heard this before. I've never heard it like that before. Just thank you. But we weren't making any sales on it. And it was super discouraging because at the time, that webinar was going to raise the capital we needed to build Radius Bomb, which was really expensive. And our product didn't have Radius Bomb yet. which is, it's this really cool map where you can, circle one individual house and click a button and send a postcard to them or a letter, or just the lakefront homes or just homes with pools, right? It's amazing. And we wanted to build that, but it was a really expensive, very technically challenging piece of software to develop. And this webinar was the way to save our day. So the gratitude effect was talking about, the science of business growth from using the scientific principle, a psychological trigger called the gratitude effect, and how when you have deep, authentic relationships with your customers, your employees, with influencers, it causes all kinds of massive ROI in your business, and most people don't look at it that way. And I was giving all these strategies and specifics on how to do it, how to crush it, how to double or triple your business without even getting new customers, and I teach in there how to do it. Well, the problem is I did it wrong. That webinar was a sales webinar, but what I did is I did a deep teaching, like heavy stuff. Like people were taking 2 pages of notes going through my webinar, and they had confusion and overwhelm, and they were encouraged and inspired, and they learned from it, but it didn't put people in a position to buy. We needed to sell like at least $100,000 worth of St. Jim on that webinar. That was our goal. And that's why I worked so hard on it. But I fell into the age-old trap of Techno-Babble and of teaching too much when I'm trying to sell. And so I was kind of discouraged at first, just thinking like, God, what's wrong with me? Did people not want our product, And we did sell, 20, 30,000, maybe 40 at the most over the next few weeks after that. But it was a huge punch in the gut. And I see service companies do the same thing. They're so technically minded that when they talk to customers, it just goes over their head. They're just not with you, man, right? They're not with you. You don't want to do that, right? When I did the Radius Bomb webinar, after Radius Bomb was released, I did everything completely different. That's when I started listening to Russell Brunson and trying to figure out, how do I get people to like understand what this is and be excited, but also give me money for it, right? Because your customers, at the end of the day, they vote with their wallet. They vote with their wallet. If you're authentically providing massive value, then you will make a lot of money as a natural byproduct of that. But you have to clearly articulate the value to the person without speaking Techno-Babble or without feature dumping or info dumping. Another mistake that we made that maybe you're making is the feature dumping thing. So it's like you're staring at your prospect, you gave them the proposal or the price sheet, they're kind of reading it and it's kind of awkward. It's that awkward moment where you're about to ask for the business. You're like, hey, so you want to give me money and stuff, right? It's like when you're on your first date and you like want to kiss, but like you're not sure and you're looking at each other weird and it's super awkward and uncomfortable. That's what it's like when you sell, right? And you really need to refine that piece of your process. You're not there just to give them a price. You're not just an order taker or a commodity. The whole thing is a carefully crafted system and a process, and you have control over it. So, and for every business it's different, so it's hard for me to like tell you exactly how to do it. But what you want to do is you want to make sure that you clearly and simply communicate why you're different, better, unique, and totally amazing compared to anything else they could ever dream of comparing you to. And then you want to ask for the business very clearly, right? You have to ask them for money. That's called closing. And what people do when they're nervous, instead of closing, they do feature dumping. So they're standing there awkward, and the homeowner is looking at them like, okay, cool. And then you just start rambling and saying things. Well, just so you know, we're actually all fully insured and bonded. And actually our employees have all been with us for several years. And we actually just invested in this new piece of technology called a water-fed pole or a hot water pressure unit or whatever fancy thing is that your customer doesn't care about that you care about. And you just keep talking and rambling. And it causes confusion. And then it greatly diminishes your chance of scheduling that job right there on the spot. Instead, you want to simplify. And one of the ways that I've taught you on this podcast before, but I'll remind you, is to use really simple forced choice closes. These are really easy, and you can train your whole team on them. And I learned this when I was in the mortgage industry. I got a super high level, very deep sales training at Quicken Loans. They're amazing. They had 2,000 mortgage bankers in this building just crushing it. And we had a very specific structure to the sales process and everything. I mean, very specific. All the calls were recorded. There was continuous coaching and helping. And you don't have to go to that level. But one of those nuggets was called a forced choice close. So when you're ready to ask for the business and you give your recommendation, first thing you want to do when you give your pricing is, like Brandon Vaughn says, is it okay if I take off my salesman hat for a minute and just kind of speak to you as a technician? And then they'll say, Yeah, and actually they'll be relieved by that. And that's all Brandon, this super rock star, awesome technique. Is it okay, you're handing them the price. Is it okay if I just kind of take off my salesman hat and just kind of talk to you real quick? And then they say, yeah, sure, that'd be great. And then they feel relieved. And then you're going to professionally recommend what they need. And a really important piece of this is to point out the things that they don't need. So if you're going to clean someone's house for them, they're not really sure what they want. They want a clean house, but maybe they need this. Maybe they should do the oven. Maybe they shouldn't. They don't really know. So you need to walk them through this and become a professional recommender that's taking your salesman hat off. And it's okay to literally say that. Is it okay if I take my salesman hat off and just talk to you as a technician real quick? And then they say yes, and you say, well, I went through the whole house. It's awesome. We can definitely serve you. And some things that I noticed were, I don't think we need to spend a lot of attention on this or your oven right now, which is actually going to lower your price. I really think that can wait unless you really have to have it done. I also think we can go deeper on this area because I noticed there's a lot of mildew buildup and there's a lot of whatever, fill in the blank with your thing over here. So, my recommendation is that you pick the gold package. I think that's the best fit for you right now. And then later, if you want to add on some services, that would be great. We'd be happy to do them for you. But this is really the one that you need right now. Okay, now, without stopping talking, do not stop talking. You're going to roll into what's called a forced choice close. So you say, is it okay if I just kind of explain what I feel is best for you? Okay, I noticed this and I recommend this. And then you roll into the forced choice close of, so what do you think is going to work best for you? Mornings or afternoons? Or when is the quickest that we should get started on this? Do you want to do it the end of this week or do you want to put it out a week? When we come to do this service for you, do you prefer that we leave you an invoice or do you want to pay with a credit card on our website? All those are examples of forced choice closes. They didn't say yes yet, but it's called an assumptive close. And the assumptive close is where you're assuming they're saying yes because you've just professionally recommended a real need that they had. You've established trust by telling them what they don't need. And then you're assuming the business because you're the best ever. And you've already, shown that by the way you answered the phone, the way your literature is, and how you showed up for your appointment on time, and how you're dressed to the nine and you're super professional and you know what the heck you're talking about, right? And your website's awesome and everything's awesome. That whole process, then you get there, you take off your salesman hat, you professionally recommend, shout out to Brandon Bond, that is such a wicked good line, and then you roll into a forced choice close. We have an appointment opening on Monday, but if you want to wait, we could actually do it on Thursday as well. Which one's better for you? And then what will happen is one of two things. Number one, they're going to pick a day. They're going to say, yeah, mornings are great, or yeah, no, I'd rather do a credit card on the website, or they're going to say, yeah, this Monday would be perfect. And then you're done. That's you asked for that. You assumed the business and got the business. Or number two, they're going to ask you a question. And if they ask you a question, guess what? That's awesome. Because you know what questions are? They're buying signs. When people ask questions, it's because they're about to buy from you, but they have a little bit of confusion still. And your job is to answer their question without info dumping, feature dumping, or using Techno-Babble, and then do another forced choice close. So every time they do it, you're not a used car salesman. I'm not suggesting you should be that. I was not that. That is gross. You don't have to do that. But you do have to ask for the business, right? Because you deserve it. And you shouldn't feel bad for making money, and you shouldn't feel bad for charging people money ever. You're providing real tangible value to the world. You are worth the rates you're charging. Most of you are honestly worth more than what you're charging, but you have your own little mental baggage going on that we got to break through and deal with to fix that, right? So I hope that helps. Kind of a different type of podcast today, but I thought it'd be valuable going into the weekend. And this is just another example of something that you can literally apply to your business immediately for free. That's what this podcast is doing for you. I'm trying to, is it okay if I over-deliver, right? That's what I'm trying to do. I want to over-deliver and bring the goods. These are really simple, practical things that make big dents in your revenue, your close rate, everything. And if you are enjoying these, please give me a 5-star review on iTunes. That would be super awesome. I'll give you a big hug if we ever meet someday. And share these on Facebook or on LinkedIn in groups. Post them on your page. Tag people in it that don't listen that maybe could benefit from this. Because, hey, we're just trying to add value to your life, and your high five back to me is just sharing it. That's it. That's all I ask. I love you all. I'll talk to you later. Take care and God bless. Hey, thanks for hanging out, friends. And from all of us here at the Quick Talk Podcast team, we hope you loved today's show. We hope that you were inspired to become a doer and not just a listener. Apply what you've heard today in your own business and watch things change for the better. Lastly, remember that all the money in the world can't save your soul. Seek first the kingdom of God, my friends. We'll see you next time.
For more information about the Quick Talk Podcast or Joshua's other businesses, visit our website, quicktalkpodcast.com. Have a blessed day.